Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back to the Fantasy Headliners. Kyle here, and in today's video, is it worth the risk? A video series I did last year, diving into each position, going over where did guys finish on a weekly basis. So how many times were they an RB1, an RB2, an RB3, created a risk score, and then decided, are these guys worth the risk or not? Who is the safest running back option? Who's the riskiest running back option? And we're going to go over exactly what risk score is and what it means for you. But I got to remind everybody that we are still doing our June giveaway. For anybody that pre-orders their draft guide here in June, you're going to be entered into a drawing to receive a full-sized autograph Deebo Samuel helmet. It's sweet, it's delicious, it looks absolutely incredible. You're not going to want to miss out on that, so make sure that you pre-order your draft guide here in June. But we're going to extend another giveaway to anybody that orders their draft guide in July. If you order your draft guide in July, then we have a full-size throwback Packers helmet signed by Aaron Jones. We're giving away full-sized helmets, and all you got to do is order a draft guide. That's easy money, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you end up winning that helmet. You get all that delicious material from the draft guide, and you get a helmet potentially on top of it. Woo! Go order right now. Link down below, thefantasyheadliners.com. It's going to be an amazing draft guide once again, and it's going to be dropping here very, very soon. But let's go ahead and hop into the video, and let's talk about what is risk score. So risk score, for me, what I did is I went through and I detailed going off the top. So for running backs, we're going to talk about the top 24 running backs. The top 24 running backs being drafted as of right now based on ADP. And then what I did is I went back to last season and I said, okay, how many games did they finish as an RB1? How many games as an RB2? How many games as an RB3? So inside the top 12, 24, and 36. The better you finished, the less points you got. The worse you finished, the more points that you ended up getting. So then what did I do at the end of it? Well, I took the total points, divided it by the games played, and then that gives us our risk score. The lower the score, the less risk that individual had left season. So hit the like button for me, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to pick somebody to give a draft guide away to in this video. We got to hit 1,000 likes, though. If we hit 1,000 likes, I'm going to pick somebody, and I'll let you know a little bit later on in the video what you'll have to comment with in order to be entered to win a free draft guide, 1,000 likes, and then we'll be doing that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at it right now. Hopping over to my trusty spreadsheet right here, and here's what we've got. So let's take a look at how many times these individuals finished as a top 12 running back last year. We're going to sort this range by column D. And then we're going to go A to Z. Boom. Nope, did that wrong. So we'll look at the least amount. So here we go. Josh Jacobs, Javonte Williams, Saquon Barkley only finished as top 12 running backs 3 times last year. Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell were at 4. Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Harris, Chubb, Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Swift, Gibson. All of them had 5 games as a running back 1. 6 games goes to Connor and Elliott. 7 games goes to Mixon and Kamara. 8 to Eckler and Harris. And then, Jonathan Taylor coming in with a crispy 12 games last season as a running back 1, blowing away Najee Harris and Austin Eckler. So what about a running back 2? Let's sort by column D here, and let's take a look. We'll go the other way this time. All right. So, all these NAs here at the top don't really matter for us. So Josh Jacobs actually leading the way last year, finishing as an RB2 7 times. Now, we know that Josh Jacobs, obviously last season, was nothing to write home about. Probably didn't help anybody win any leagues or anything like that. But I also believe he was a lot better than people are giving him credit for. And you can tell that in the ADP. Right now, Josh Jacobs is being drafted 41st overall. I mean, he's only being drafted a few spots ahead of J.K. Dobbins and Travis Etienne, who didn't play at all last year. And then he's being drafted far behind Cam Akers, who didn't play until we got to the playoffs last year. So for Josh Jacobs to be finishing with 7, keep an eye on that in your drafts. Keep an eye on it. Voice is starting to go out again. Lots of coaching this summer. Lots of yelling. Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler, Najee Harris all finished with 5 games as an RB2. Fournette, Harris, Zeke coming in with 4 games. Javonte Williams, Mitchell, Cook, Chubb, Gibson, Connor, Mixon, Swift. No, I'm sorry. Mixon was the last one. Gibson, Connor, Mixon, all with 3 games is a running back 2. Swift, Kamara, Taylor with 2 games as an RB2. And then Barkley, McCaffrey, Henry, Montgomery, all with 1 game as an RB2. So now let's take a look at RB3s. How many times did these individuals finish as a top 36 running back? Well, we're going to go here to column F. Sort it again. Javonte Williams led the way last year. Now, we know Javonte Williams was an RB3 more times than not because of Melvin Gordon. Now, I believe that Javonte Williams will end up leading the backfield this year, but one thing I don't believe is that he's just going to all of a sudden out of nowhere get so many touches that he's going to finish as an RB1 consistently. His ADP right now, people are drafting him as the 15th overall player. So right there towards the top of the second round. I get it. I love it. If Melvin Gordon goes down, he's going to absolutely finish a lot higher than that. But if Melvin Gordon is not injured and plays the entire year, now we're looking at Javonte Williams being a guy that you might draft him as an early second-round pick, but he's going to return value more as like a third or a fourth-round pick, especially if he doesn't take some of these top 36 finishes and moves them up to top 24 finishes. Joe Mixon with 5 games. Barkley with 5 games. Montgomery with 5 games as an RB3. Jacobs, Fournette, Harris, Elliott, Chubb, Gibson, Connor. All of them coming in top 36 with 3 games. Eckler, Mitchell, Cook with 2. Jones, Swift, Taylor, Henry, all with 1. And then Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, and Christian McCaffrey. They didn't have any games where they were between 25 and 36 overall at the running back position. So now here's the big column, the final column or other. This is how many times individuals finished outside the top 36. And for each game that you finish outside the top 36, you get 5 points added to your risk score. So this is a big one because obviously if you're finishing that far outside of the top 36, we've got issues. That's when we've got a problem with guys being busts for us on a weekly basis where it's like, man, I got nothing from this guy. Williams, Barkley, Gibson, Jones, and Swift led the way last year. 4 games where they finished outside the top 36. Elliott, Harris, Kamara all had 3 games outside of it. Montgomery, Fournette, Harris, Chubb, Connor, Mitchell, Cook, McCaffrey with 2 games. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Mixon, 1 game last season. 1 game last season where he didn't provide you top 36 numbers at the position. So he only had 1 week last year where he was truly considered a bust. For me, that's a bust. If you finish basically outside that top, running back 1, 2, or 3 category, because at that point, like you weren't even worth a flex. 1 time last season from Joe Mixon. The same as Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs only had 1 game last year where he finished low enough that he wouldn't be considered any type of a start. Jonathan Taylor had 1, and so did Derrick Henry. Austin Eckler, 0. A big fat 0 from Austin Eckler last year. That's incredible. That's incredible. Every game that you played Austin Eckler last season, he was worth the spot. Every single game. Every single game worth the spot. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy to think about. So I got to do a thing here. I got to go all the way back. We got to go back to where we were at the very beginning, okay? Boom. So there's our risk score. All right. So there it is. Lowest risk score coming in with a 1.5. I mean, no shock here. Jonathan Taylor with a 1.5. But Austin Eckler was very, 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 very close at a 1.6. At a 1.6. That's awesome that Austin Eckler finished so close to Jonathan Taylor. And I think you're seeing that in his ADP right now. His ADP is number 2 overall. People are using that 2, 3, 4 pick on him. He's not making it outside of the top 5, and he absolutely deserves that. Even with the addition this year, bringing in some help with Isaiah Spiller, I don't think that really hurts Austin Eckler at all. Passing game wise, I'm not worried about him in the passing game. Last year, he stayed healthy, played in 15 games. One thing I do want to make note of, I just remembered about. So the information that I pulled, okay, and I used the fantasy scoring from Fantasy Pros to pull it, everything. For some reason or another, Fantasy Pros only recognized the first 16 games of the season last year. They completely left out week 18. I don't agree with that. Why? Because when you're putting stats together, you use all 18 weeks of stats. You don't cut the last week out. But people are like, oh, you don't use the last week of fantasy scores because so many teams were out of it. I don't give a crap, ladies and gentlemen. If we're going to use stats from the entire season, why wouldn't we use fantasy score from the entire season? That's another tangent for another time. So the reason that we're missing a game here for everybody is because they just cut week 18 completely out of the process. I think that's BS, whatever. I can't help it. I can't help it. Austin Eckler, 1.6, though, right behind Jonathan Taylor. Absolutely love it. At a 1.87, we have Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, only played in 8 games last season, but the 8 games he played in, he was an absolute stud. His risk score coming out at a 1.87. 2.06, Najee Harris and Joe Mixon tied. I was really hoping that Joe Mixon would be above Najee Harris here so I could be like, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm drafting Mixon over Harris still this year. These guys are close. Honestly, if you have an argument for drafting Najee Harris over Joe Mixon this year, I get it. I understand why. I'm not really going to argue with it. I still believe 100% it should be Joe Mixon. Better offense, better quarterback, better weapons around him, better offensive line. I'm going Joe Mixon over Najee Harris because of that. But if you take last year's numbers, Najee Harris and Joe Mixon were super close to each other. And that shows right here with both of their risk scores coming out at a 2.06. Obviously, Najee Harris had a little bit higher finishes, but Joe Mixon was a little bit safer because he only gave you 1 game of bust performance, where Najee Harris typically gave you 3 of them. So, and the last kind of number right in here, before we kind of jump up a category, 2.16, Alvin Kamara. A lot of people, obviously, the potential suspension is weighing heavy right now on his ADP, but I think there's a lot of people that look at last year and didn't see those gaudy Alvin Kamara numbers, and they're just worried now. Not for me, 2.16, still safely within the top options there at running back. Now moving on to the yellow category here. Looking at these guys, James Conner. He came in last season with a 2.21. I don't know why it's trying to do that. Boom, there we go. He ties with Josh Jacobs. So again, Josh Jacobs, I was going to put Josh Jacobs on the thumbnail, but I didn't think anybody would click on it if you saw Josh Jacobs. So I didn't put Josh Jacobs on the thumbnail, but he's kind of the biggest thing that's coming out of this. I want to love Josh Jacobs, ladies and gentlemen. I want to love Josh Jacobs. I really do. For me, if he's going around that 41 ADP, if you can get him like as your RB3, I would absolutely love that. I think Josh Jacobs is really undervalued right now. He's got Kenyon Drake that's going to steal some of that passing game work still. But man, his performance from last season, very under the radar. Even if you see right here, again, he tied with James Conner. And James Conner and him are actually kind of going in the same area right now. And his 2.21 was just a little bit higher than Dalvin Cook, who's number 6 overall, and a little bit higher than Christian McCaffrey, who's number 5 overall. In fact, his risk score was better than several guys that are being taken above him right now. Josh Jacobs, I think, is a true sleeper this year that if you get, you're never going to be overwhelmed with his performance. Again, are you going to get a whole lot of top 12 performances? Probably not, but I think he's going to give you some top 24 performances. And because of the addition of Devontae Adams and that passing game being stronger this year, he's going to be a guy that's not going to perform at a pace where it absolutely kills you most weeks. Love that about Josh Jacobs. Again, with Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey obviously missing a lot of time last year. 4 RB1 performances out of 7 games, but he did give you 2 that gave you outside the top 36. Leonard Fournette, I mean, the same score as Damian Harris. I don't know if that's credit to Leonard Fournette or Damian Harris. To be honest with you, probably credit to both of them. Both of them finished with the same exact numbers. They were RB1s 5 times, RB2s 4 times, RB3s 3 times, outside the top 36 twice. So for me, when you take a look at that and you see that, Leonard Fournette's going at 27, Damian Harris is going at 55, and nothing has really changed for Damian Harris this year, okay? Yes, you still have Ramondre Stevenson, but the situation itself really hasn't changed a whole lot for Damian Harris. So unless Billy B is just deciding at this point that he's going to forget about Harris and give Ramondre Stevenson the lead back, which I wouldn't hate because I love Ramondre Stevenson, it's still worth getting him because he's still going to be scoring touchdowns at a clip that's going to help you out. Leonard Fournette, though, his situation's a lot better. No more Ronald Jones, and he's going to be in a situation where he can really take advantage of that and be the lead back and truly put out some, hopefully, outstanding performances. All right, on to the next group. Unfortunately, Nick Chubb not finishing as high as we would have liked to see last year, obviously. Scroll down here a little bit. But, that to me is a little bit more because he still finished with 5 games as an RB1. Now, 5 out of 13 isn't great, but in some of these other performances as well, a lot of the inconsistencies with the offense last year, getting away from running the football, being in situations where they could pound the football and they didn't, to me, that's a little bit more indicative of last season than just Nick Chubb as a whole. So the debate will continue to rage on about Nick Chubb. These numbers don't scare me that much because if you go back and you take a look at his numbers from 2 seasons ago, he was much better. His risk score was much, much lower a couple of years ago. But unfortunately, again, just the Browns offense as a whole just being dysfunctional last year really led to a lot of it. Elijah Mitchell, he's finishing a little bit lower. So did Zeke, David Montgomery, and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones had some boomer bust performances last year. Gave you 10 games out of 15 where he finishes an RB1 or 2, but 4 of the final 15 games there, you can see he was outside of that top 36 range. That really hurts, is when you fall outside that top 36 range that much, that gives you some issues because then you take a look at the numbers down below with Swift, Gibson, Williams, and Barkley. They finished outside, the most. And that's where risk score really comes into play. Like if you're finishing outside the top 36 as a running back, you're really killing fantasy owners at that point because you're getting a non-startable performance. Now, if you get something inside the top 36, that's basically telling you, hey, you could put him in at your flex position and you're not going to find a whole lot of options better than him. If he's finishing inside the top 24, then you've got him, whether it be top 12 or top 24, you're putting him in as an RB1 or an RB2. So he's obviously helping you there. So it's those other performances that really kill a running back's value and hurt you. Saquon Barkley, is he going to get back to being himself this year? It's really risky to see. Javonte Williams still has Melvin Gordon. Antonio Gibson, we know he's not going to get the rock as much, especially near the goal line. DeAndre Swift, he's dealt with injuries. Are the Lions going to utilize him more? Is Jamal Williams going to be a factor again this year? And then, of course, Aaron Jones. Last season, the addition of really A.J. Dillon helping out even more. That kind of knocks Aaron Jones down a little bit, but his passing game work could really, really help him this year, and that could be a huge boost to his fantasy value. So those are definitely things to be taking a look at. But in terms of risk score, let me know down in the comments below. Again, if this video gets to 1,000 likes, okay, I'm going to give away a draft guide, but to be in it to win it, you have to leave me a comment down below. So my kind of criteria here is, we know that those top several running backs there with Taylor, Eckler, Henry, Harris, Mixon, like those guys we're going to be drafting. I want to know out of that next set, that yellow set there, where we have Connor, Jacobs, Cook, McCaffrey, Fournette, with those guys right there, based on the ADP that you see next to their name, who do you think is going to be the best value? Leave me a comment down below. Who do you think is going to be the best value out of that yellow group there? in terms of where they're currently being drafted and what they'll return at the end of the season. So you might really like Christian McCaffrey, but maybe his value at number 5 isn't as good as what Leonard Fournette is at 27. So let me know down in the comments below. If we get 1,000 likes on this video, I'm going to pick one person that comments to give a draft guide away to. But this was a pretty popular series last year. A lot of people love to see the information broke down like this. So I hope you all are enjoying it again this year as well. But there's the risk score for the running back position. We're going to do quarterbacks. Quarterbacks going to be coming out, and then wide receivers, and then tight ends. So you're going to get a chance to see everything that you need to at all the positions. But hit the like button for me. Subscribe here if you're new to the Fantasy Headliners and become a part of Headliner Nation today. Do not forget to pre-order your draft guide. I got another video to record. I'm already losing my voice, so I got to keep as much of it as possible. Leave me a comment down below. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of here. Stay safe. Stay healthy. I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners. I can't talk anymore. I can't talk.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on third down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. You know we about that chubb life. Stuck in a rut and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation.
I'm a headliner.